Matthew 13. Remember, in the last one, he talked about the sower went forth to sow, and some fell on good ground, some fell on bad ground. But here he says, verse 10, and the disciples came and said unto him, stop and think about that. Can you imagine having direct access to Jesus to ask him any questions? I mean, like, yeah, we do. Yeah. Why speakest thou unto them in parables? Legitimate question. Hey, Jesus, why don't you just preach to them? Why are you telling them these stories? Verse number 11. He answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they, seeing, see not, and hearing, they hear not, neither do they understand. Now watch this carefully. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, by hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed. They did this to themselves. They don't want to see the truth. They don't want to see it. And their eyes they have closed. And verse number, lost there, verse 11. Lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. For blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. There are people who don't want to hear. They don't want to. Turn to the book of Second Kings, way back in the beginning of the Bible. All the first and seconds are together in the Old Testament. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Go to 2nd Kings, chapter, let me get it up here on the screen here. There it is. 2nd Kings, chapter 4. The skeptics are always trying to look for any contradictions they can find in the Bible. I was a brand new Christian, and they just about derailed me from my faith in the Bible by showing me a supposed contradiction between Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I cover all that in my video number 7. 2 Kings chapter 4, verse number 26. 2 Kings, oh, I'm sorry, 1 Kings. What am I doing? 1 Kings chapter 4. You'll find out when you get old and senile. Okay? 1 Kings chapter 4, verse number 26. And you're going to want to keep your finger here. And Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. How many stalls for the horses? 40,000. Keep your finger there. Go to 2nd Chronicles. To the right, a couple of books. 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. 2nd Chronicles chapter 9, telling the same story again. 2nd Chronicles chapter 9 and verse number 25. 2nd Chronicles chapter 9 verse 25. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots and 12,000 horsemen. Go back to 1 Kings. Solomon had, where'd it go? There we go. 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. Well, both of them say 12,000 horsemen. But one says 4,000, one says 40,000. And even the Defender Study Bible that I've used and worn out a half a dozen of them and love it, and we sell it, and we did, the Henry Morris Defender Study Bible, he says, well, there's a copyist error here. He says at the bottom in his footnotes, there's a contradiction in the Bible. Let's see. I can't read it there. This is best described as a copyist error. There it is. It finally focused. I'm sorry. Henry's in heaven now, and he knows better. Okay? It's not a copyist error. Look at it real carefully. See, why did Jesus speak to them in parables? They've closed their ears. They've closed their eyes. They don't want to see. Okay, well, let's just give them enough rope to hang themselves. And they will. 1 Kings chapter 4, look at it carefully, verse 26. And Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, Does that tell you how many chariots he had? No. That tells you how many horses he had to go with the chariots, right? Now go to 2 Chronicles. Let's look at chapter 9, verse 25. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots. Whoa, whoa, whoa. They had 10 horses per chariot. Now, they didn't use 10 horses to pull the chariot, but they had chariot teams. The chariot was your tank of that day. The horses are going to get shot and wounded and get tired and, have to throw a shoe and need medical attention. So you bring the chariot back to the back, swap horses, and go out and fight again. Not a contradiction. One of them tells us he had 40,000 stalls of horses for the chariots, and he had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots. Not a contradiction at all. I cover a bunch of these supposed contradictions, as does Peter Ruckman in his book, The Errors in the King James Bible, explaining them. But he says in this book, if I answer every contradiction the critics throw at me, and I'm going to try to in this book, and I think he did a good job of it, rather than get converted, they will search for 400 more. They don't want to believe. I get in these debates all the time with the atheists, and you can make an absolute fool out of them easily. And when you answer all their questions, do they get converted? No. They look for something else. One guy's commenting on the website, he said there's clear contradiction between chapter 1 and chapter 2. Well, I cover that in my seminar, part 7, wherever it is here. Seminar 7. No, there's not a contradiction. Chapter 1 gives all 6 days of creation. Chapter 2 goes back and fills in the details only on day 6. Chapter 2 was probably written by Adam. Chapter 1 probably written by God. Adam wasn't made till day 6. But chapter 1 has the animals made before man. Chapter 2 has man made, and then Adam seeing the animals made, and he's naming them. See, there's a contradiction. Did animals come before or after? No, it's not a contradiction. This is only talking about in the garden. The rest of the world's full of animals. Up out of the ground comes an elephant. Adam's supposed to name it and select a wife. He says, elephant, no. Up comes a giraffe. Giraffe, no. Hamster, no, for sure no. Okay, so this is only taking place in the garden. The rest of the world's already full of animals. Adam is naming them and rejecting them for a wife. And then God says, go to sleep, son. I got a surprise for you when you wake up. Adam woke up and he says, whoa, man. I think I don't know how that worked out. We'll see. Oh, man. So Jesus talked to them in parables because he knew they really don't want to hear this. The Bible says, don't cast your pearls before swine. They don't appreciate it. They'll trample it under their feet and turn again and rend you.